Our New York Post baseball columnist, Joel Sherman, has a two-part series about the Yankees on the Post website, about the state and the future of the Bronx Bombers, and he joins us now. Joel, thanks for joining us. Before we talk about how the expectations were high for this team and they underperformed, let's go on some positives. Let's lead with some positives. What positives can this team take away once this season ends for them?
Well, it would be positive to try to Garrett Cole's going to win the Cy Young. Aaron Judge proved again when he's healthy, he's the most dangerous power hitter in the world. Of course, he wasn't healthy the whole season. He had a freak injury. What Michael King did over the last 6 weeks of the season has to encourage the Yankees, or at least entice them to try him in the rotation next year. This was top of the rotation stuff for the last 6 weeks of the season, the 7 starts he made. Clark Schmidt made it through his full season as a league average starter, which showed his durability. Can he grow from more than that? And then, these young players, you saw some good stuff from Volpe and unfortunately some bad stuff. Austin Wells, the Martian, Jason Dominguez. Look, the Yankees can't be good going forward unless some of these young guys are going to be core good pieces. We're going to see the Orioles in the playoffs with the best record in the league. They're not going anywhere for the next few years. They're built around young players, and the Yankees are going to have to match that to some degree with their young players, not just with their wallet.
Well, do they have enough talent on this team in terms of young talent to match that? And if not, how do they acquire that talent?
Well, I think that they're not good enough right now. They clearly weren't good enough this year. I think one of the worst things any person could do in any walk of life is con themselves, delude themselves. And I think it's probably easy for people who are trying to save their jobs to try to delude themselves and maybe even delude others and say, there's no injury prevention program in the world that would have prevented the injuries to Aaron Judge and Anthony Rizzo. They were totally freak injuries. The bottom of the wall at Dodger Stadium for some reason isn't padded, and Judge missed a third of the season because he sprained the big toe on his right foot. And on a back pick from the catcher, Anthony Rizzo had Fernando Tatis Jr. His head jammed into his leg. He had concussion, post-concussion syndrome. Somehow the Yankees, and he kept playing for a while. He clearly wasn't Anthony Rizzo. Then he stopped playing. You say to yourself, well, with that, they still, as opposed to the other teams that had disappointing season, the Padres, the Mets, the Cardinals, Yankees are probably going to finish over 500. If those two freak injuries don't happen, do they win 90 games and get in? Maybe, but I think what those two injuries did is they underscored just what's wrong beneath the surface of the Yankees. They lack depth, they lack athleticism, they lack diversity. And those things, Brandon, must be addressed. And they got into those situations over years of poor decision-making. Anyone who thinks they're getting out of that by one magic bullet signing or trade this offseason is wrong. They need these young players to play and play well. If they don't, nothing else they do will really matter in the short term.
Well, when it comes to that money being tied up into a certain amount of players, a small amount of players, you can't really build depth on a roster. So you're saying that it's not something that can be fixed right away. What would you do? If you were Brian Cashman, what would Joel Cashman do?
Yeah, I'd change my last name, and then I'd look, I think there's a lot that's both roster building and non-roster building.
Okay.
I think that I've written quite a lot recently over the last month, 6 weeks, about some of the teaching practices they have, about how they've become siloed. Anthony Volpe has made about half of his plate appearances almost have ended in strikeouts or ground balls to the left side of the infield. Anthony Volpe was part of the U.S. national under-18 team that played when he was under 18, that had Corbin Carroll and Bobby Witt on it and C.J. Abrams and pretty much every good amateur. He hit third on that team because he was the best hitter. He hasn't looked like that hitter this year, a guy who uses the whole field. So the Yankees have to get back to a philosophy of good hitters, not just freak hitters, who are trying to lift and pull in the air. It made them too easy to pitch to up and down the lineup. They've got to get back away from that philosophy. And I think just in the short term, I think this core of Yankees, if these young players grow a little, Rizzo's healthy, Judge stays healthy, Cole's Cole, King looks like he is, they could get to the 85 to 90 wins to be into contention next year. But I don't think they're the kind of team, like the kind of team that goes out and tries to sign Ohtani or trade for Soto or try to sign Bellinger. That team is a finishing team. That's a team that feels like it's close. This team shouldn't feel that way. This team should be going out and trying to sign the best 1 and 2 year contracts possible with players that deepen every phase of the game. I'm a big one that they should go get Kevin Kiermaier on a 1-year contract, win that 1-year bidding to play center field. He's left-handed. He's still a great defender. He has high energy. He has a high baseball IQ. If and when the Martian, Jason Dominguez, comes back next year, he could play left field. You have Judge and Dominguez around him. I would try to sign someone like Hyun-Jin Ryu, the left-hander with Toronto, on a 1-year contract just to deepen the rotation. I'd just be thinking about deepening. And any trade I made, where I would try to get, again, another left-hand hitter has to be for players who have control beyond just next season. Keep in mind, if you go for Juan Soto, it's probably going to cost 3 to 5 prospects. He's a free agent at the end of next year. He turned down $440 million from the Nationals, which means it's going to take him probably a minimum of that to sign him long term. Should the Yankees really be in that business after what you've seen this offseason? This season? I don't think so. I think that they've got to build this slow because it decayed slowly.
I encourage everyone to go to the New York Post website and check out the 2-part series that Joel has wrote for us. And Joe, thank you for coming in and breaking that down, man. I feel like a Yankees expert now. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we just got to go down to the courthouse and change my last name.
All right.